had Bernie Sanders bowing and scraping to the tyranny of political correctness at every opportunity. But he did go on to note that the gender imbalance at the delegation was really due to the superdelegates. See, the superdelegates, they want a 50-50 split amongst the entire delegation of 26 members. But understand, of the 26 members, 10 of them are superdelegates. And they say 8 of the 10 party leaders are elected officials who automatically get to go to the convention that are men. So of the superdelegates, 10 out of the 26, 80% of those are men. And they're not going to mess with the superdelegates. You don't mess with the superdelegates. Also, as we look at the Veep stakes coming out this weekend with Hillary Clinton, the 2 people that have been up at the top of the list, one of them was Vilsack, and Tom Vilsack, he, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, they have floated his name as a vice presidential pick. He has been at war with Bernie Sanders because he has been supporting the DARK Act that would shut down all state and local GMO labeling laws. We can't even know what's in our food because Big Agri doesn't want us to know that they are putting GMO there. So they're shutting that down. They're doing it at the national level. They got tired of fighting people at the local and the national level and losing in some cases, or spending millions upon millions of dollars to try to tell people that you really don't want to know what's in your food. After they brag about so many different things. This contains this, that contains. If you've got good stuff like we do at Infowars.com, I mean, you got something like DNA Forces, got BioPQQ in it. Wouldn't you want to brag about that? Of course you would. Okay. You wouldn't just kind of slip this in, you know. So these people, when they don't want to tell you what's in their product, and they don't want honest labels. I mean, is it because they've got something like sawdust or arsenic in it or GMO stuff, okay? I mean, you should be able to know what's in that. So they call him Mr. Monsanto. The Sanders supporters are very unhappy that this guy is on Hillary Clinton's short list. He's the 2 names that I've seen floated to the top are Vilsack and Tim Kaine from Virginia. Now, Tim Kaine from Virginia is somebody that Intercept has pointed out. It's on the Drudge Report. He has been one who has supported very wholeheartedly the Trans-Pacific Partnership and, of course, the process to subvert the Constitution on trade treaties, not calling them a trade treaty, calling them partnerships or calling them agreements or whatever, okay? The NAFTA was a trade agreement, they told us. Not a trade treaty, but it was a trade agreement. But when you look at the dispute process and you look at the people who put themselves out there as specialist lawyers on this dispute process, they are treaty lawyers. Nevertheless, we have Kaine who spoke to the Intercept. Get this. After an event at a Northern Virginia mosque. This is a guy from Virginia, a senator from Virginia, former governor from Virginia, the person who is being vetted, and everybody believes that he is the person that Hillary Clinton is going to pick. And, of course, he supports the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and he is holding events at a mosque. There you go, folks. The same day, we've got these multiple attackers going on in Germany. They say that his measured praise of the agreement, he pulled it back today for the first time. His measured praise of the agreement could signal one of 2 things. Either he's out of the running for the vice presidential spot, or Clinton is trying to signal that she's not really against the TPP, because that's what her corporate masters really want. And that brings us to, I think, a key issue. And that is the fact that Glass-Steagall is in the Republican platform. And, of course, the Guardian is saying, well, the Democrats and the GOP now agree on a key thing, restore Glass-Steagall. They say buried beneath all the frenzied political drama of the Republican National Committee, this convention this week, was one thing, and that is that the GOP and the Democrats have actually found something they can agree on. And the same plank in both parties will say, and these are things that both Trump and none other than Elizabeth Warren, his arch nemesis on Twitter, have agreed on a policy initiative, the need to restore Glass-Steagall. So what is it? Well, this is something that was put in the after the Depression, at the height of the Great Depression, to try to restore confidence in the banking industry. Part of what had happened during the Great Depression was speculation by banks, runs on banks, insolvencies by banks. So they came up with a couple of different ideas. They said, we're going to give you government-subsidized FDIC insurance, deposit insurance for people. to get people, give people confidence that they would be able to get their money. And then in exchange for that, we're going to say that banks are going to have to separate themselves from people who want to get involved in the market. So there's going to be investment funds over here, and then there's going to be banks that just do safe loans and take deposits and that sort of thing. That was Glass-Steagall. Guess who took that out? Bill Clinton. And we're going to tell you why when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight. I want to talk now about banking and where the Republican and Democrat candidates stand on this. It's very clear from the GOP platform. The Republican platform calls for a revival of Glass-Steagall. I explained to you what that was about. That was something put in at the end of the Great Depression to separate the risky aspects of financial investment, like brokerage houses, stock brokerage investment, away from the more conservative aspects that were going to be guaranteed with federal deposit insurance, to restore confidence in the economy and to also say, hey, if we're going to give you some help in this, then you're going to not be allowed to take these types of risks. If you want to take risks, you're going to do them over here without any government insurance. That's not what happened in 2008, is it? What happened in 2008 is we had a massive meltdown. They were privatizing their profits, socializing their losses. When it all melted down, we were told these banks are too big to fail, and we had to bail them out. And we did. And how did they get too big to fail? Well, that's the key. Because not only did Bill Clinton repeal Glass-Steagall that all the liberals say they want, and it's amazing to watch the liberal press. You know, you've got Intercept looking at this and saying, well, can we really trust this? Is this something? This just came out of nowhere? No, it didn't. And they look at some of the places where Donald Trump has talked about this this approach, and this advisors of his have talked about that. So it didn't really come out of nowhere. It was not highly publicized. They did not get into the weeds. They were keeping it at an 8th grade level for people at the GOP convention. So let's be adults and let's talk about what's really behind this at this point. Now, The Guardian says, well, the Democrats and the GOP agree on this, trying to take that away again from the Republicans. And I've got to say to you, Hillary Clinton does not agree on this. Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders think that Glass-Steagall should come back, not Hillary Clinton, not the Clintons. It was Bill Clinton who took it away, and he defended it a year ago on the Hill. Bill Clinton defends the repeal of Glass-Steagall. He says, they say he defended his decision to repeal it. The Depression-era banking regulation splits large financial institutions. It's championed by liberals. He said, look at all the grief I got for signing the bill that ended Glass-Steagall. There's not a single solitary example that it had anything to do with a financial crash. Yeah, of course not. Yeah, if you allow banks to do very risky speculative stuff and you bail them out when they get involved in selling collateralized junk, that wouldn't have anything at all to do with it, would it? Meanwhile, this year, January, Clinton and Summers, they say, on another op-ed piece, this is, well, that was an op-ed piece, this is from the Hill, say Clinton and Summers are wrong on Sanders' Glass-Steagall. At that point in time, Hillary Clinton was clearly saying she does not want Glass-Steagall brought back. Sanders was saying that he did. And they say Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren have called for passage of an updated version of Glass-Steagall. But former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, joined by her husband's former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, objects to the proposal. Okay? And again, say this would not have prevented anything. Let's talk about what really happened and how all these banks became too big to fail. I remember, and I had a perspective on it from being in North Carolina, because it all began, all the banks that started merging together, it all began in 1998. Glass-Steagall was not repealed until 1999. In 1998, you had the merger of Nations Bank, which is a very large solvent bank that was based in Charlotte, North Carolina, with Bank of America, which is headquartered, I think, at the time in California. Everybody said at the time, this will never go through. This is one of the largest mergers we've ever seen in history. And yet, Erskine Bowles, who was an investment banker himself and was chief of staff for the White House, pushed this through. A North Carolina bank, where he was from, and Bank of America. On the strength of that, okay, you have all these quotes at the time. Bigger is indeed better, said the new president of Nations Bank. And they say American banks have been hamstrung with laws that discourage branches in more than one state and by the federal Glass-Steagall Act. So they took all of that away. They got too big to fail. The next year, Bill Clinton said, don't worry, you can speculate as well. We'll still bail you out. That's Hillary Clinton, who is still owned by the banks. That's the difference, folks. Join us tonight, 7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, for the InfoWars Nightly News.